Who were the major risers and fallers after episode 4 of House of the Dragon? Which character do we love the most? Who is falling in our latest character power rankings? Let's go. Here we go. What is going on, guys? Welcome to the Suit Up Podcast. Today we are breaking down episode 4 of House of the Dragon, where we're tier ranking our favorite characters. Let's jump right into where we stand. This is week 4. You look at week 3. All right. Who were some risers? That was Daemon. He went from A to S tier. We had that's about it. Pretty much Crab Feeder was dead, so he fell in our rankings. So we're going to go from the top to the bottom. Joining me, as always, my man, Christian from Film Optics. What is going on, Christian?
What's up? What's going on, guys? Another week of power rankings. You know, this is week 4. So, yeah, this coming up week will be halfway through the season. Very, very excited to see how things play out. If if you've read the book, we just asked not to spoil anything in the comments, as I have. So we're just gonna, keep it rolling and have a good time.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So here's our ranking from last week. What'd you think of episode 4, man? Let's just quickly go over our quick general thoughts.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, I loved it. Much like episode 2, it is more of the political chessboard being played. May not be as actiony as people would hope, but that's only part of Game of Thrones. The other part is the political struggle and the careful calculations of certain things that may or may not happen, and people trying to hold onto their position of power to get what they want. I thought it was a fantastic episode, very juicy, lustful episode. It's basically, Viserys trying to keep hold of Rhaenyra, but she kind of just has enough, because it really is kind of like her breaking point. This is her kind of rebelling against her father and her house in a way. But there's a lot of angles that are trying to be that are trying to be made here to make their claim to the Iron Throne.
No. I think the awkwardness got dialed up to an 11 this week. There were several times we all saw it coming between Daemon and Rhaenyra. I love the melodrama. I love the melodrama of Game of Thrones. I'm loving it here. I really enjoyed some of the smaller moments. Just like if you watch our previous reviews, my favorite moments are always the small dialogue between characters. And I appreciate all of what we saw in episode 4. I think it was a solid episode. In many respects, Game of Thrones is somewhat of a soap opera. Is that a wild take, Christian?
In a way, I would say it's more of kind of like the tragedy, kind of. It's like a Shakespearean tragedy, especially House of the Dragon. I would say less so than Game of Thrones, but because this is about the House of the Dragon, being in its glory. It's kind of like halfway through its 300-year reign, and things kind of start to crumble to pieces, and that's where you get the Dance of Dragons, and the aftermath of what happens in the Game of Thrones original show, where not a lot of Targaryens around. Yeah.
Question: would you be down for a bar crawl through Westeros?
Probably.
You
It'd
think
be a lot of fun. I mean, it would be exciting, but yeah, it's like what Madison said. And She-Hulk episode 4. She'd be like, first it was very fun, then scary, then spooky, but in a fun way. I feel like that honestly sums up a tavern bar crawl through Westeros and Flea Bottom.
Well played, sir. Well played. Let's jump right in. Rhaenyra has been consistently our top seed through these character power rankings. Does that shake at all in week 4?
No, because her father actually listened to her, and finally. So we've been seeing her struggle, but she still has that claim to the throne, and that is something that could be a good thing or a bad thing, depending on the the social construct of Westeros isn't necessarily all that progressive, but this is a fantasy old English type medieval type show. So I mean, Rhaenyra for now definitely just keep on up there. Her position of power has been questioned only because of the rumors, but it doesn't seem like a lot of people know about that. But I would keep her at S tier.
Should we just piggyback off of this? Because we learned that Rhaenyra this episode will accept a marriage proposal from Laenor.
Yeah.
So why don't we just jump into Laenor real quick right here? Does Laenor go from A to S tier? I mean, this was a big riser last week because of the dragon.
Yeah.
Now he's got Rhaenyra by his side. Should we bump up Laenor?
I want to, but at the same time, we know how marriages can go sometimes in the Game of Thrones universe. Sometimes people don't even get to the marriage, or afterwards they do get married, but then things start hitting the fan. Because technically they're not wed yet.
Yeah. Okay.
I would keep him at A for now. I think he's a great character. I think keeping him in A because he is set to marry Rhaenyra is a very strong claim. You could probably maybe put him between A and S as he is ascending there to that area. Seems like a decent dude. He came in clutch during episode 3. During the Battle of Stepstones. So yeah.
Okay. I'm good with that. All right. So another big reveal here was Otto getting the hand taken away from him at the end of episode 4. I think it should still stick with S tier, even though he lost the title. The dude just screams Varys. Like, remember how Varys in Game of Thrones had spies everywhere?
Oh yeah. I love the Varys. Oh, he's so good.
So that reminded me of Otto in this episode when they spotted Rhaenyra in that courthouse, whatever it was.
I would. Yeah.
What you take?
I would probably put in between an A and a B just because he is no longer the second most powerful. Well, that's me. Only because he is still a High Lord. He's still a nobleman. He's still highborn, but he is no longer the second most powerful person in the realm. Mm-hmm. So even though his daughter is married to the king, he kind of has to live vicariously through her. That's what it seems. Because I caught the glimpse of the preview for next week's this coming up. Technically next week because Sunday starts. Anyway, next episode, because they do the on the next Game of Thrones or House of the Dragon. But yeah, I feel like he has fallen from grace a bit, but he's not out of the game yet because he can still be redeemed as Hand of the King, but seems like Viserys has kind of had his mind set where it should be for now. But yeah, like he's not out of the count. Like power ranking wise, like he still has a strong hold because his grandson is, well, he hasn't been named heir, but he is the son of the king.
What was Danny's name? Danny's brother's name, was it Rhaegar?
She had two brothers. There's Viserys. He was Viserys' second of his name, Danny's brother, and then Rhaegar, who was also Danny's brother, but he had died. He was already dead by the time the original series started.
Oh, Viserys.
Robert Baratheon killed him.
So I'm thinking like we could see almost a Danny and Viserys kind of similar fall through here, because now Alicent, who I think should stick as an S tier.
Oh, for sure. I mean, she's still
Alicent. She's kind of been the puppet while Otto's been kind of the puppet master. Just like Danny flipped, and she said, and when Danny was like, no more, like I am Khaleesi. You can't bully me around anymore.
Yeah,
I think we might see a similar storyline play out. Any thoughts on that?
No, I think that's a very good a very good analogy there. I could definitely see Alicent snapping at some point because she is the queen, but number one, not necessarily by her own choosing. It was all calculated by her father to kind of you need to step in and do comfort the king as much as you can through his time of grief. And she's kind of a prisoner in her own way. It's not that Viserys is necessarily holding her there, but it's more so from her father. So, yeah, I think that's a really good analogy.
All right. And then what about Daemon? So Daemon made his return here. Got a lot more screen time in episode 4, but it didn't go so well for Daemon. I think the dude's scheming. I think he purposefully put Rhaenyra in that situation, knowing that it was going to cause some sort of commotion. Because I know...
Oh, yeah, he wanted to get back at Viserys. He wanted to.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I know there's he loves Rhaenyra, but I know his main play there was to cause conflict, and I think he was successful.
I think so. And I think in a way where he does care for Rhaenyra, but it did seem like he was using her. Because the second that that scene happens where, the position of power is that Daemon was in, the position of power. And then, there was Rhaenyra kind of following along. But then the power shift kind of evened out when he found out that she was enjoying it as much as he was. And then it was no longer to his advantage. So it was that's why I feel like he backed off. Because he was he's like, this isn't fun for me anymore because the thrill of the chase is over, kind of type of deal. But I mean, yeah, he's still scheming. He's been banished again, but I feel like he does have he has been announced as heir, but the realm could see it a different way. But I would be okay with keeping him S tier because he's always just. We've seen him knock him. He's been banished, but he's came back, and it's but he is probably the most interesting of the Targaryens out of pretty much all of them. I would say Rhaegar is probably the next interesting one, but we never really see him, so Daemon will have to do.
Right. Any other S tiers? Are we good with that?
I think we're good on S tiers for sure.
All right. Then we get to A tiers. Kristen Cole had some moments, some very good moments in episode 4. He's definitely kind of got the attention of Rhaenyra, obviously. Does that bump him up at all this week?
I would honestly keep him where he's at because nothing's. Obviously, a relationship is formed between him and Rhaenyra, but he's still in the same position he was in. He's not necessarily looking to grasp power. He's really just trying to do his duty, but he just broke one of his oaths. But like I said, oaths don't really mean nothing in this universe. So Yeah, I would keep him I would personally keep him an A tier.
Okay. We didn't get much from Corliss or Rainey's.
Yeah, well, Corliss's wedding his daughter to the Free Cities. So I
Exactly.
mean, that is kind of him. But and I mean, he's wedding both of his children now, apparently. So I would say I would actually keep him. Him and Raina are kind of like a package deal. So it's
Yeah.
like wherever he goes, she she's to follow. So I think keeping him an A tier is totally fine.
Me too. All right. Next major character to discuss here has to be Viserys. Finally,
Bump him up to a B. He finally did something smart, or at least maybe between a B and a C. I don't know. What do you think?
I'm going with the B. This was one of those moments where I was just pumping my fist in the background. Better late than never, I guess. But he finally called out Otto on his BS, and did what he needed to do. I'm sure there's going to be pretty epic consequences because of that, for sure. Yeah. But it was good to see the king do what he needs to do. What are your thoughts? I'm good with B.
I'm good with B as well, because I mean it's the first time that Viserys has actually listened to the person that he actually named heir, because he seems to go back and forth with a lot of things, but it's he reminds me a lot of Ned Stark, because when Ned Stark finally finds out that spoilers for anyone who hasn't watched Game of Thrones, if you haven't watched it, you've had 9 years or 10 years, a little bit over 10. God, it's been forever. It's been it's been over 10 years, hasn't it?
I think so.
Yeah. You've had 10 years. So when Ned finds out about the Lannister siblings, Cersei and Jaime, kind of like hooking up, he's like, oh, that's what's happening. But yeah, it's finally clicking inside Viserys's head. It's like, hey, like if my daughter's telling me this, I should probably listen. And it's like, it's like Rhaenyra, like, yeah, she's been named heir, but she even said in this episode, she really just wants to live in solitude. She kind of just wants to do her own thing. And it's like, hey, like you named me heir, so you need to make sure that I'm on the Iron Throne. But it's like, hey, your right hand man is clearly trying to, take that power for himself. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I think he did a very smart thing this episode. We kind of see his body starting to erode away a little bit there.
Yeah.
Between the scenes between him and Alicent, and just even his fingers are starting to, he's starting to fall apart. I mean, that's happens when you sit on the Iron Throne. It's like, people who get cut by it are not fit to rule, unfortunately. So maybe it should have been Rhaena. But I mean, I guess that would not have been a very peaceful thing for Jaehaerys to decide. He's like, I'm gonna go out in the most peaceful way. 60 years of peace in Westeros. But yeah, I think keeping Viserys at B tier, because he finally did something right, and he is trying to hold his own. He's trying to ensure that his house will then live for another generation, and that keeps going on, and that's all he really cares about. And and he kind of calls out Daemon a little bit, but it's sibling rivalry, as we saw in the first episode. So yeah, B tier for sure.
All right, cool. So then we get to just a list of characters that really weren't at all involved in episode 4. Well, we had Materia had a small scene where basically she's done being a whore. She's trying to move on with her life. I don't think that really makes her jump up or down or anything. I'm gonna keep her at a C. We don't really know what the motive is right now. What are your thoughts?
Honestly, I think that's fine. Same thing for like Aegon II, baby Aegon, who's now 3. I don't know who Lena is. Oh, she's marrying someone from the Free Cities.
Yeah, we don't know.
But I would say honestly keeping her at C, because we haven't really seen any of these other characters, at least this episode. So I mean, we didn't even see Rhaena or Corlys this episode either. So
yeah.
I mean, the Maester kind of came in with I guess their version of the plan B, but I think that was just more in self-interest of Viserys. So
Right.
I really don't think this Maester has anything, trying to scheme. I mean, he may try to sway one person, to do something over another, because as we saw in the last episode, when, during Aegon's second name day, Aegon the second, his second name day, he was talking to the Master of Coin. I think Otto was, and they're like, yeah, like you need to make sure that your grandson, becomes the heir. Like you need to make sure that Viserys names Aegon the second heir. But it seems that he's failed in that. But I mean, he's not out of the race yet, because his daughter's still queen, and he can still whisper in her ear, and so on and so forth. But yeah, the rest of the characters, I would just keep them in the same tiers as they're in, because they weren't in this episode.
I have one. And maybe I'm reaching a little bit. I'm going to make one of the biggest risers in this show. And that is a guy that I completely forgot about, because before we went live, we were talking about who's going to be the next Hand of the King. Lionel freaking Strong. I want to pump him up to an A to B tier, because I would suspect that guy gave great advice. Logical, rational advice to King Viserys.
With no ulterior motive at all.
Yeah, so I think that's probably a lock to be the next hand.
That is true. I mean, he did also say that, hey, Rhaenyra should wed Sir Laenor for the same reason.
Yes,
why
there it is.
He should have wedded the sister, Laena. So it's like, yeah, I think that's honestly very valid. I think he is a very strong contender to become the next Hand of the King. I mean, it kind of sucks, because you would think it would have been Daemon just from the get-go. Because I mean, hey, he's essentially going to be a prince all of his life, unless Viserys just produced all female heirs. So it's like, I mean, he should have been his Hand of the King, because he would have looked out for him, and it's okay. Just be the second most. It's like you're already the prince, just hold that power as the second most powerful man in Westeros for the Hand of the King. It would have been a really nice power couple, I think, there, just for Viserys as well.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, I think that's really good. Good analogy for him.
Okay.
Mm.
All right. Any
unbiased opinion. Anyone else? Honestly, no. I think this is perfect, because like we said, most of the C, D, and F characters we haven't really seen. I don't think baby Aegon's gonna be could have anything left on his sleeve. So yeah, I think this is good.
I think the clear, if we're talking predictions, I think Aegon and Laena are going to be risers over the next few episodes. I think we'll probably see them a lot more.
Yeah,
at least their influence for sure.
Yeah. Only there's also Aegon's sister, because remember, Alicent had another baby, but we never got the name. Yeah,
true.
So I think this all happens a year after. I don't know. Because I think Aegon's 3 right now. Yeah. By episode 4.
Okay.
That's how I'm doing the time. I'm using it like a timestamp.
I honestly don't remember the time.
Because I remember they said in episode 4 that Aegon was 3. So it's at least a year, maybe going on 2, because you could be 3 going on 4. So we'll just have to wait and see.
Love it. All right, that pretty much wraps it up. Christian, tell us about Film Optics. Go ahead, man. Time is yours.
Oh boy. First of all, thank you so much for having me on. It's been really fun doing these power rankings every week. Just when you think someone is out of the race, they find a way to come back in. But you can find my podcast, Film Optics. That is Optics with an X. It's spelled down there below. We are audio only podcasts on podcast platforms around the internet. That includes Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Audible, iHeartRadio, and more. As of late, we have been covering House of the Dragon episodes on our channel, spoiler free, of course. We are able to get them a little bit early, so we try to push them out and for them to be spoiler free for people to enjoy without, giving anything away, because we don't want to spill the tea. And we've also been covering She-Hulk each and every week on our channel, and we will continue to do so. So definitely check out those episodes on the podcast, as well as our we just dropped our Barbarian review. Super crazy, freaky horror movie. I honestly don't know if a lot of people have heard about it, because I've been talking to a lot of friends and family, and they have no idea what I'm talking about whatsoever. But I guess you could say it's more on the indie-ish side. But I mean, it is a 21st Century Fox movie, so I wouldn't really call it indie, but it's just more lesser known. But if there's any Avatar The Last Airbender fans out there, you can definitely check out our Avatar The Last Airbender Book 1 and Book 2 series revisited episodes that are on the podcast right now. And we're going to be doing Book 3 hopefully sometime soon by the end of September. And you can also follow us on at Film Optics. Again, that's Optics with an X on Instagram and Twitter for any movie related content. And yeah, I think we're going to be covering Pearl as well, that new A24 movie, another indie movie. I'm very excited though, and maybe Woman King as well, because I'm very excited for that. But yeah, that's just where you can find us on the webinar, or excuse me, the web. So yeah, thank you again so much for having me on, man. It's been a blast.
So fun, man. So fun. What did you think of the Willow trailer? Did you like it?
I did see the dude. Okay, so I'm all in. Like this is the year of fantasy. Like
it really is.
Again, His Dark Materials. We have House of the Dragon. We have the Rings of Power. We have Sandman come out. We have Willow, which looks amazing. I'm actually happy to go onto my Disney Plus and watch something other than Marvel and Star Wars content for once. I mean, like, there's Pixar stuff and stuff on there too, but Willow looks really good, and I'm very excited. Did you see the Percy Jackson teaser?
I did not. Did that come out?
Yeah. It's on the YouTube channel. I think it's about maybe like a minute long, but it looks very good. I'm very excited for the Percy Jackson series. But yeah, Willow, that's underneath Lucasfilm. I feel like a lot of people just think that Lucasfilm is Star Wars and nothing else, but it's also Indiana Jones, of course. And then we have Willow. I'm very excited for Willow. I'm very excited just to watch something other than tuning in for something Marvel or Star Wars on Disney Plus. I mean, there are other things like High School Musical, the musical, the series, but I haven't really caught up with that in a while. But yeah, I'm very excited for Willow, man. I'm all for it.
All right, guys, go check out Christian's podcast, Film Optics, at Film Optics on Twitter, anywhere you get your podcasts. Awesome content. Thanks again, Christian, for joining. We'll be back next week again as we just discuss everything House of the Dragon, top to bottom. It is really good so far. So thank you everyone for watching. Comment down below what your thoughts were on episode 4. Who's the next riser in House of the Dragon, character wise? Let us know. For Christian, for myself, stay awesome, everyone.
Wakanda!